There's a huge helicopter that just went over my house.
Couldn't hear from this side.
I was like, are we being bombed?
No, you're just being spied on.
Yeah, it's Zach.
You don't get to slide up and down a pole?
No, I've never seen a firefighter slide up a pole.
You could be the first if you put your mind to it.
There is a point of diminishing returns in eating crickets, though, I will tell you that.
Boom. Hello to our disc golf friends and family out there around the world. My name is Patrick McCormick, and I wrote the premier disc golf pop-up scratch and sniff book, Zen and the Art of Disc Golf. And joining me here are two of my favorite disc golf bloggers in the whole wide world, Mind Body Discs, Tim Stewart and DG Putthead's Chris Bowden. How are you, gentlemen?
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning. Doing well.
Good morning. It is our goal to bring you the best in sport growing entertainment. And this month, we actually have record four pods scheduled, and mostly booked with exciting new people to introduce you to. Today, we are super excited about our show. We have a guest on the pod today whose resume is downright incredible. He's a player, an inventor, an innovator, an entrepreneur, a DG philanthropist who has a dedication to growing our wonderful sport. He didn't just grow the hashtag, grow the sport. He invented the hashtag, grow the sport. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Heaton.
Good morning.
How are you, John?
I'm very good. Thanks for the wonderful introduction, that's for sure.
You're very welcome. So we're going to be discussing the many faces of John and his history in the sport. But the biggest reason John is joining us today is because he is the event chair of the St. Jude Disc Golf Invitational, which we mentioned in episode number 22. Before we get to talking to John, let's first talk strategies for success, which will be henceforth known on the podcast as Discs and Zen. Today, I would like to talk to you about how we're going to grow the sport of disc golf. But first, I'd like to talk to you about something that I call investments in the spirit. I mentioned this term, investments in the spirit, in my book, Zen and the Art of Disc Golf, and I identify this concept as any activity that you do that only requires small amounts of your time or resources in which you give to others, and eventually will come back to you in much larger amounts than you initially gave. I want you to picture yourself as a vessel that holds all the good things that you want out of life. And this vessel grows as you receive more and more of the good stuff. And I'm talking about love, affection, friendship, wisdom, but also success and money as well. There's room for all of this good stuff in your vessel until it gets full. Now, what I want you to understand about this vessel is that it can always grow to allow more of these things. There really is not a limit to how much it can grow. But at a certain point of filling this vessel, its growth begins to stagnate, to slow down, and it stops letting more good stuff in. But the good news is that there is a secret to get you through this stagnation so that your vessel can continue to grow and get more of what you want out of life. And the secret may sound a little counterintuitive, but I want you to hear me out. You have to let some of that good stuff out. That's right. You have to make a little space in that vessel and let the universe know that you are ready to be refilled to grow some more. You're going to have to give away some of that good stuff and have faith that not only will it be returned, but more abundantly. So if you want love, you're going to have to give more love. If you want more affection, you're going to have to give more affection. If you want more friends, you need to be a better friend. If you want more wisdom, you're going to have to share your wisdom. If you want more success, you're going to have to help other people find their success. And if you want more money, which really all of us do, you're going to have to let some of your money go. Hopefully to a cause of your choice, with an unrelenting faith that it's going to come back to you. It's no secret that we give a lot of things away through social media, through this podcast, through our blogs. And I'm often asked how we can afford to give so many things away. And the answer is simple. For everything that I give away, I get back at least tenfold from you guys, listeners, readers. Therefore, my small investment reaps much higher rewards than the initial dollar value. But let me explain this to you. Your return on investment is not going to come immediately. Sometimes it takes time, And sometimes we've been taking for so long that we have to let a lot more out of our vessels before we can start receiving again. But let me tell you, when we start getting it back, it's no mystery why it has come back into our lives. This law of giving, and it is a law, it works every time. But unfortunately, as we get so wrapped up in our lives, it becomes easy to get into a habit of taking more than we give. And as our vessel becomes full, it won't allow more good stuff to get in. In fact, with a lack of appreciation for what we actually have in our vessel, it begins to shrink and push out the good stuff. And we actually become a little self-destructive. We spend more than we make, taking more than we give. We eat more calories than we burn, taking more than we give. And we expect more out of others without giving them more of ourselves, causing our relationships to crash and burn. Now, don't misunderstand me. You don't need to empty your vessel in order to get more out of life. In other words, you don't have to donate all of your money and all of your time and expect better out of life. It actually takes very little to get the process going. And it's not all about money, as I mentioned above. As a matter of fact, the easiest way for you to give is to use the talents that you have to make the world a better place. There's an old Zen proverb that tells of a student going to its master and asking him how to bring about world peace. And unexpectedly, the master simply says, "Sweep the floor." You see, it's not always the big things that we do that make huge difference. It's the little things that we can do every day that make our lives better and other people's lives better as well. It multiplies and makes the world a better place. So how does this relate to disc golf? Well, we often talk about growing the sport. And the reason we want to do this is because disc golf gives us so much. It's fun, it's peaceful, it's meditative, and very often with no or little cost out of our pocket. It gives us so much and yet expects so little. So if you truly want to grow this sport of disc golf, you're going to have to give something to grow disc golf. Today, we're going to be talking to John Heaton about the St. Jude Invitational and how he sees charity events like this are going to help grow the sport exponentially. And if you can help St. Jude with whatever amount of money that you can donate, that's amazing. But when we talk about giving something to grow disc golf, we're not just talking about money. You can just as easily grow the sport using any talent you have. Donate your time to other people, teaching them how to play. If you're talented in working with children, develop a program to get children involved in disc golf, like the Good Up guys from episode 3. Sacrifice some of your game time to collect trash on the course. If you're a writer, start a blog like Tim or Chris. Write a book. Even if you don't have any web development abilities, write to any of the bloggers on this cast, and I'm sure we could all use additional writers on our blogs. If you're good at landscaping, volunteer to assist in course maintenance. If you're good at organizing, organize a team for your college, school, organize a club for your locality. If you're good at photography, show the world the beauty that you see on the disc golf course. Your options are limitless. We all have talents that if we use with focus, we can grow the sport and make the world a better place. And that's another tool for your disc golf bag. So awesome, guys. I'm so happy that you're here with us, John, and happy that you're able to come talk to us about yourself, your history with disc golf, and also about St. Jude. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with disc golf.
Well, I'm about to be 55 years old this year. I started Frisbee playing when I was in 5th grade, and it immediately became my passion as a sport. I played every other sport in grade school and high school, and even ran track in college, but it was Frisbee was my passion. So from 5th grade to, I guess I got into college, it was freestyle and invent games and whatever. So I did play some disc golf in my little hometown in northern Illinois, from fire hydrant to telephone pole to, the next object down the block. And then when I got to college, I ended up at Northern Illinois University and was turned on to Ultimate at that point. And there wasn't much of a club presence there at the time, but did play some Ultimate there. And then took a job selling surgical lasers and other medical devices and moved to Kansas City. And as it turns out, I knew no one in Kansas City. I took a Frisbee, an Ultimate Frisbee, to a big, it's called the Spirit Festival in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And just went out there with that, saw some other guys playing catch and just joined in with them. And after they saw me throwing and all that, they're like, "Dude, you should play Ultimate. Have you ever played Ultimate?" And I, introduced myself. And basically from there met everyone I know. I mean, it really turned into a bromance with all the different guys I played with. I've played very serious ultimate in Kansas City. We kept trying to get to the nationals. We always went to regionals and practicing three times a week. I mean, as serious as we could do it. And then I guess it was in about 1987. A friend of mine from Illinois said, "Hey, there's a disc golf course in Kansas City," and I'm like, "Disc course? What do you mean?" And so he came to visit, and we went to play, and it was Swope Park disc golf course, which was my first disc golf course ever.
Okay.
And I was introduced, changed after the first round to a golf disc, which was an Arrow at the time. And immediately was just so psyched because I could throw it so much farther. And so I was really hooked right from the start. And then I couldn't play enough disc golf. I mean, I'm sure it happens to most of us. It was, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week I was playing disc golf. So
it's an addiction.
Yeah, and it's a great addiction. And at the time, I was running the course and playing and getting numerous rounds in a day, and so my game improved quickly, I think, because of that. And then played in a local tournament, which turned out to be a decent sized one. And the U.S. Fall Open, Tom Ingle was the proprietor of the course there at Swope Park, and he had this tournament there. And so the first tournament I played in, Sam Ferens was there, Greg Hosfeld was there. As far as the names that I recall now that are still known in disc golf.
It's awesome.
And I ended up coming in second and won $500. So
Sweet.
I was like, I can't believe this. Look what's happened. And my parents were like, "What? You won money?" So that was the start of my disc golf career, I guess. So then it was every tournament I could get to within 10-hour drive every weekend. Very much just as involved as you could be in the sport, and did pretty good regionally and all that. I don't remember ever winning any big titles. Kansas State flying disc champion, Missouri State, things like that, but nothing really to hang my hat on. But then I was awarded the PDGA Rookie of the Year in 1988. So I guess that's one of my claims to fame. So from way back, and my heart and passion has been in this sport ever since. And listening to your opening remarks, I feel at home. I mean, you guys are really speaking the language I'm familiar with. I think this sport has a great deal to offer to humanity, to put it that way, and for a lot of reasons. And I'm sure we can discuss that a little bit more. But now I'm involved, and I don't want to go into all the detail of it, but I believe charity, as you had said, charity can make an enormous impact on disc golf. My belief is that if we really put our energies into it, even just a little bit from each of us, the disc golf community is really big, and the possibilities are enormous. So if we could turn people on to what this could do to disc golf, I believe it could put us on, every newscast, Good Morning America, the Today Show, Ellen, ESPN. I mean, amazing things could happen for disc golf because we are giving back. And in the case of the St. Jude Disc Golf Charity Invitational, we are giving back to kids who are diagnosed with cancer and other life-threatening diseases, and that's who we're helping. So the story is amazing that the disc golf community is coming together to help kids with cancer, and then to go into a little bit of detail on St. Jude. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, was founded in 1962, and back then, childhood cancer, and I don't know all the names of the different cancers, but your survival rate was 4%, 6%. I mean, just nobody survived childhood cancer back then. And Danny Thomas founded this, and everyone scoffed at him that it wouldn't work and all that. And since then, it has grown Now the survival rate for some of these cancers is 80 and 90% because of research done at Children's Research Hospital. So,
Wow.
so every kid you help at St. Jude today finds new treatments and new paths to treatment that help kids worldwide. So anything they come up with, they just publish it throughout the world. So they're curing cancer all over the world, even though their research is all done in Memphis. And then furthermore, if a kid, and this is what was so impactful about going to the hospital myself, is every kid you see walking in there it's something really serious, or you're just not there. You're not there for a tonsillectomy, or you're getting your appendix out. You have bone cancer or brain cancer or something, leukemia. It's a very serious position to be at that place. And in the case of St. Jude, no one receives a bill when they leave that place. So if you're a pediatrician in let's say Seattle, you go into your pediatrician, your kid has a headache, the pediatrician does some tests and realizes, oh no, this is your child may have brain cancer. They'll call St. Jude Memphis, and the next day you're on a flight to Memphis with your parents and the child. You get to Memphis, they'll take care of you for 9 months, they'll treat you, you get all the treatment, MRIs and everything that's needed, and you're put up in a hotel, the family's there. So your family is there with the child the whole time, 9 months or whatever it takes. And then at the end of that, when you're in remission or whatever situation is improved, you're then sent home and you do not receive a bill for all that. And then furthermore, that patient who has been there as a child will continue to go back to St. Jude for further testing to see what the treatment had done to their body overall. So they were treating your cancer, but what did it do to your lungs, or what did it do to your heart, or what did it do to your brain? So they're following all these patients through their entire life. So it's really an incredible organization and what they're doing. So it's an ideal charity for the disc golf community to be behind. And I know there's other charities that we're getting into, which is awesome. I just know this one personally is very profound in what it does, and it serves kids all over the country and even across the globe come to St. Jude. So,
well, a lot of people, what kind of stands in between them and donating to charity is this idea that the amount of money that I'm going to be giving is not going to the actual cause. It's going to some administrator or something somewhere else. But what you're describing is incredible, and that all this money has to be going to these kids.
Yeah, so I understand the skepticism of some of that, and there are some really shysters out there, I know. St. Jude, on the other hand, is one of the highest throughput, let's say, from dollars given to dollars used in the actual care and treatment of these kids or the research. And for the last 3 years, I believe it's over 83 cents of every dollar goes directly to the kids paying these bills, the treatment, the technology, the scientists that are involved in this. And the rest of it, yes, they do have to function. There are people on staff who are just about fundraising and all that, because they really survive through fundraising. They're not, yes, the insurance pays what it can, but then all the rest is done through the charity that's given by individuals like us.
Absolutely.
And I believe Danny Thomas said he'd rather have $1 from a million people than $1 million from one person. And so that's the point the disc golf community is in, is it really, there's so many of us, we don't need to, really dig that deep to have a huge impact, because as we come together as a community, it's the sum total of us that are bringing this about. So
absolutely. And you mentioned that your basis for saying that charity work and things like this are growing the sport is related back to the actual PGA. You've noticed that charity just really exploded them. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, so I read some books, history stuff on golf, just to look back and see, what had happened. And part of my story is I grew up in a golfing family. I was playing golf when I was 6, and nothing too magical. But my dad always played. My brother was a great golfer, and so I'm from the golfing family. Before I even knew about a Frisbee, I was playing golf. This book describes some things that happened during the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And so if I remember the details, in 1970, the total purse for the PGA Tour was $8 million. 20 years later, it had gone past $100 million, and now it's over $300 million in just purse.
It's incredible.
And along with that is the whole industry that followed that. So now there's, it's a multi-billion dollar industry, golf is. And they attributed, I think 5 different things were attributed to why that happened. One was they started naming tournaments instead of the Bob Hope Classic. Mm-hmm. They turned it into the Buick Invitational. And I don't know if I'm saying the right name for both of those, but it went from being about Bob Hope to being about Buick. So now Buick is getting all the benefit every time the tournament is mentioned on TV, radio, newspaper, magazines. Buick has said Buick, Buick, Buick. So they found that they were getting way more money back from all their advertising from being involved in golf than they were giving to the tournament.
It's interesting that you bring that up because that was actually brought up in one of our episodes. I already mentioned the guys from Good Up. They mentioned that sponsorship is a huge key to growing the sport, and they're not just talking about sponsorship from Innova or Discraft. They made the distinction that those are not sponsors; those are manufacturers. But bringing in companies like you said, Buick or Coke and Pepsi and things like that is what's really going to propel the sport. And also, they mentioned charity in their podcast as well.
Yeah, so that was one of the 5 things. Another one was building stadium courses so that the public could come and they could all see. I mean, if it's in the woods, as many disc golf courses are, if 1,000 people showed up, right? Who can even see through all the trees and all that? So part of it for golf was making these stadium courses so 10, 20,000 people could be on the course and they could all kind of see the action. Another big step they believed was putting these big scoreboards up on the course so that if you did show up at the tournament, you could look at the scoreboard and see, wow, he's only 1 stroke back on hole 13, and you could head over to that and you'd see where the action was, let's say. And then, in this case, they turned every PGA event, every PGA Tour event into a charity. So each tournament was a 501c3. And the benefit to that was that if you were a volunteer helping, or again the news media and all that, you weren't just doing all this to put money in the pockets of, at the time, Arnold Palmer or Trevino or what of these guys. It was bigger than that now. It had become something much bigger than just playing a golf tournament, see who's going to win and win the most money. It became something about charity in this case, and they picked different charities and did that. So I took that in and realized, wow, that's cool. And then essentially for me, what happened was Dana Vici, who had purchased one of the products that World Sports makes, or that I make, he ended up coming back to me and saying, hey, will you sponsor me? I'm going to go to the Worlds. And he was raising money for the American Cancer Society because both his mother and his aunt had suffered through cancer, and I believe they both lost their battle. So it was really impactful to him. Sure. And so he had just on his own, by himself, just started reaching out to friends and family, and in my case, the company, and said, hey, could you sponsor me? I'm going to the Worlds, and how about if you just donate $1 per stroke or whatever? So the idea was that he was just going to see if he can get sponsors. And it turns out it was in 2012. He went and raised by himself almost $5,000 through that.
It's awesome.
And so he told me about that, and I was like, wow, what an amazing thing. One guy just raised that much. What if we had 400 people raising $5,000? Right. And so that's the real genesis of my passion and belief in one, we can do this, and 2, from the PGA history, the impact it could have. And so Dana and I spent a lot of time on the phone on what can we do? How can we expand this? What do we need to do to make a tournament or tournaments where it would involve all the players or a large number of them all doing this type of fundraising. And so thinking and how it would work and all that, and really didn't get anywhere. I mean, we had a lot on paper, but nothing was really happening. And then I got a call from a good friend of mine, Crazy John Brooks, who was a Hall of Famer, disc golfer, like a dozen world titles, freestyler, and disc golfer of great fame and notoriety.
Sounds like somebody we need on the cast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and he'd be a great person to get on because he goes way back and has awesome stories and a great guy and very passionate. I mean, he loves Frisbee and disc golf, so I encourage you to reach out to him. So he mentioned that a friend of his wife, had now been hired at St. Jude, and during her interview at St. Jude, she mentioned disc golf as a potential way, a new way that St. Jude could become involved or to gain donations.
Cool.
And so they hadn't really thought through that much, but Crazy John reached out to me, and then I just started talking about this whole plan that I had, gone through with Dana and how it could work and what about this and what about that and what if we did this. And so he put me in touch with Annabelle O'Dell O'Malley, who is the events specialist for St. Jude out of Northern California. And ipso facto, I became the event chair. And, we had a successful event last year, and we're on our way to an even bigger event this year.
Very nice. And I don't know if you know this, but Tim has been one of the people to set up a team on the events site for St. Jude and is matching at was it quarter per dollar, right?
You got it.
A quarter per dollar for anybody who joins his team. And so Zen Disc Golf joined the team last week, but he's one of the very few people that we know of that are actually pledging to match any value in addition. Anybody who's interested in donating to this great charity, if you go to events.stjude.org/mindbodydisc and join the MindBodyDisc team, you're getting more bang for your buck in that manner.
Make me spend a lot of money, please. I really want to help this out. John, you mentioned something that I think is bears repeating, which is, I don't know if you know how many people donated last year versus how many people actually played disc golf, but it's first of all, I've had some people donate a good amount of money. Pat donated $100. We had another person donate $100, and I'm definitely going to get him a shout out here on the podcast next pod, because that's really awesome. But even if you can only give $1, there are so many disc golfers out there. If everybody just gave just a little something, we could raise a massive amount of money. And, like John said, when we look at trying to get people like Nike and Adidas and all these people to sponsor us, they need to look at us as more than just self-serving. They're much more likely to back disc golf if they see us doing stuff like this, if they see that we're a community that comes together and really kind of digs deep and does things that matter in the world. And I can't think of much more that matters than helping, kids in these situations.
I was just going to add, it's astounding what happened last year, and it speaks to the power and the strength that we have. So last year, only about 200 people were involved in active fundraising. So they went to the event site, they became a fundraiser, whether they were playing or not, and 200 people raised over $200,000. I mean, it's awesome. astounding what happened. And part of the reason is, you think about trying to raise money for disc golf. Well, it's like pulling teeth. I mean, it's just like, what is this for? What's this money for? Well, in this case, you're reaching out to people saying, will you support me? The disc golf community is coming together and we're involved in this event for the kids of St. Jude. And they go into what that is, or people know who St. Jude is. And they're like, sure, they just open their wallet and give money because it's such an incredible cause that goes back to the 60s, and so it's easy. And so you basically just say, okay, I'm going to become a fundraiser, and you send through the portal that you set up, you send emails out to your aunts and uncles and your boss and some friends, and money starts coming in. I mean, I don't want to be too flippant about it, but it's such a great charity that people are glad to give to it. So if the disc golf community would just become involved in it, we would find it easy to raise money, and our fame and notoriety would skyrocket. I mean, I believe if we got 2,000 disc golfers to become fundraisers, or 10,000, we would blow people's minds. I mean, how much money could be raised? So it's really an opportunity for the disc golf community to show their passion for disc golf by helping others. And like you had said at the beginning, that's going to come back to us.
It's a
tenfold.
it's a huge investment in the spirit, and it takes so little to get so much in return. As Tim was saying, he's asking for $1. Put $1 in there, he puts a quarter in there. It may just be $1 to you, but what the hospital or what St. Jude is able to do with that $1 is much more incredible than the fly swatters that you're buying monthly at the dollar store. To go back to our reference from the last podcast, John. Before I know that you're a busy dude and you got to head out eventually, but before you go, I want you to tell us a little bit about some of the other things that you do. I want you to tell us about World Sports and the Scepter, and also you've got some great pamphlets on your website about your ideas in growing the sport, and I want to talk about those a little bit. But yeah, let's talk about World Sports a little bit.
Well, I guess, I grew up in golf. I got into disc golf so heavy. And then my career was in medical device sales, marketing. I did some product development with a couple different companies. So I was just involved in the process of, looking at the market. What does the market need? What are the requirements? What would the product need for requirements? And so the whole process of creating something from a blank sheet of paper, I've kind of gone through it. I'm no expert at it or whatever, but as my passion for disc golf grew, I realized there were some things that were frustrating. So one is practicing. So for a while I had a mop stuck in the ground where I lived at an apartment complex, and I would putt and throw and approach shot to a mop stuck in the ground. I was so into it. And so, I was constantly out practicing, throwing out in the field, doing drives in a park or throwing at the objects or whatever. Didn't even own a basket for a long time. So there was nothing for the disc to go into. So they were all on the ground in my case. So having grown up in golf and seen other things in golf, like there's the ball retrievers, there's ball retrievers in tennis, there's ball retrievers in baseball. Our sport, as it matures, in my belief, is going to need things like that. And so why in the heck should I throw, empty my bag, 30 discs, go bend over 30 times, pick them all up, do it again, and be doing all this bending and stooping all the time. It
takes a toll. It definitely does.
Yeah. And so, my mind, and it was going on for a while, just thinking about how could you do it? What could you do? How would you pick it up? What would you do? So eventually, iterative process brought about the product, which is now the Scepter disc golf caddy. So it's a suction cup on one end, a bellows on the other end, and it extends from about 2 feet to 2 meters. And the 2 meters was picked on purpose because at the time the 2 meter rule was more likely to be used in tournaments. But it's a disc shagger and a disc retriever. So now I can go out and throw hundreds of shots and not have to bend over ever to pick them up. I mean, it really is as quick as you get used to it, and you can just walk by, pop, and you're picking these discs up and putting them in your bag or stacking them in your other hand.
Tim's a big user of the Scepter.
It's one of my favorite purchases last year. It was one of those things where I'd seen it around for a while, and I'd honestly hesitated a little bit. And then if anybody who follows me on the blog knows that I've got a terrible back, so anything that I can do to take care of my back and keep me healthy and playing more, the better. So after a particularly long bout of back pain, I ponied up and bought one of these, and I got to tell you, all I did was kick myself for not buying it a long time before, because, if you can think about it, I use a cart now for disc golf too. So you can play rounds of disc golf, and between the cart and the Scepter, I never have to bend down to pick anything up. I mean, I use the thing to pick my mini up. I use the thing to pick my disc up. It's really, and it allows me to play a lot more And when I'm done, I just feel so much better and so much more refreshed and have so much more energy. And tournament play that can really get to drag on you. It's just super valuable. I can't recommend this thing enough. And actually, we have John was nice enough to partner with us when we wrote our review for the website. If you go to World Sports, and I'm sure Pat will put a link in the show notes here.
Sure.
If you use the coupon code, and I'm going to ask Pat to put this in the notes as well, MBD10. John has been gracious enough to offer listeners of the show and readers of the blog a 10% discount on the Scepter to give it a try. So
cool.
If you're looking for something to kind of aid your disc golf game this year, I really can't recommend this thing enough. It's one of my favorite things I purchased all last year.
Awesome.
John, excuse me. On the news section of World Sports, there's a few articles that you have up there, a few documents, and one talks about growing the sport by making the sport more friendly, and the Scepter plays right into that. I was wondering if you could tell the listeners some of your feelings about growing the sport by making it more friendly, and some of the specifics that you've worked on, because I found those quite interesting.
Especially this concept of toxins. I want to hear more about that.
So thank you for reading those and finding those. I haven't done much to promote them, but during my 10 years during my tenure, traveling all over the United States, medical device stuff. So I was in, many states all over. I always took my disc golf bag, and I always had the printed directory. So I'd land in a town, I'm ahead of a meeting, I'd immediately go to the closest course, and I'd hit as many disc golf courses as I could. So I was able to play over 600 courses, and now it's probably 650.
Sounds like a dream.
And so. It was great. Saw a lot of courses, saw, all the variety out there and all that. So some are nice, and a lot of them, way too many are just, I believe, turn people away. So one of the frustrating things, and I'm going to plug another product. So a lot of the time you don't even know where you're going. You drive around the park, you find, okay, there's a basket, it's number 6. All right, let me keep going. Okay, and there's number 1. Now where's the tee for number 1? And eventually you find yourself on T1. You throw to basket 1, and then you're back on the hunt trying to figure out, well, where's the next tee? And this, obviously courses are improving and we're getting better at this, but I found myself constantly looking down on the ground for where's the footprints, where's the path to give me some clue as to where do I go next. So it was very frustrating. And so another product that I've created is the Next Tee, which attaches to the bottom of any basket out there that goes in a sleeve on the ground, and it allows the course director, when he moves basket positions, to just point this thing at the tee and lock it in place. The idea being that we need to make our courses more user friendly. So as this first paper I wrote speaks, if we had NBC Sports and the blimp covering the worlds, and it was just the most gorgeous place on earth, and everyone in the world was watching TV and going, wow, look at this sport, look at this great things, I want to do it. Well, then they'd go find their local course and find that, well, their local course it's unplayable, there's poison ivy, there's a cliff, I gotta be careful I don't fall off the cliff or down the hill. There's just so many toxins, as you say, that can turn people off. I believe it's part of the reason there's so few women playing the sport, is most of the courses are just too much. They're just not friendly. They're not for the whole family, let's say. They're for the 20-year-old male in the family, but they're not for your extended family, your little brothers and sisters, or your older aunt and uncle, or your parents. So I believe, in the long term, we need to do all we can to make the courses more user friendly. Signage, clean things out. You can't have a rough that I have to trod through for 10 minutes just to get to my disc so that I can maybe get some kind of shot out of it. Not only is that turning people off, but now I just slowed everyone else down behind me. So we have to make the courses so that they're as challenging as you can make it, but try to make them user-friendly and promote speed of play so that when I do go to the course, I'm not standing there for 15 minutes waiting for the guys in front of me to find their disc in the woods and complete the hole. So I'm very impassioned about that. I believe that's the direction the sport needs to go, and I appreciate you guys even noticed the articles.
So they were good articles for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna link them up. I'm going to send them out to our email list as well. But I want you to know, Walnut Creek Disc Golf Course, John was talking to you in Charlottesville, Virginia. You need this product that he's offering, because I went out there and I played 3 holes and left. And for me to leave a disc golf course after 3 holes takes a lot. So if you're listening in Charlottesville and you're in the Walnut Creek Club, you need to go to World Sports and you need to get these.
The other thing I was going to mention, I also think this is something that people are becoming more mindful of, is we have to make courses that are safe. And so, safe, I can't fall down a cliff, safe, and safe, I can't put the basket right next to the next tee. So we just have to be thoughtful in this. The discs are dangerous. And they're thrown hard. And so we just need to be thinking about that. And unfortunately, I think what that's going to mean is a lot of courses need to get pulled or redesigned, because they're just, there's too much at stake for somebody to get hurt. And there's been some injuries, but I just think we need to make it user-friendly and safe for the public. And then I think we could experience really explosive growth beyond what we've seen so far. And with that, are going to come the Nikes and the Pepsis and the other, because, they're looking at the numbers also. So there's a lot of improvements, and a lot of people are putting efforts into improving all these things. That's just something I've spent a lot of time thinking about. So
could you imagine being a huge sponsor like Nike or Pepsi, and you're sponsoring this event, it's on live television, we've made it so big, and then this guy goes off to throw this giant drive and just falls off the side of a cliff? I mean, it would be YouTube gold, but it would be terrible for the sport.
You look at the number of courses that are built right across college campuses, and don't get me wrong, I love those. They're so much fun to play. There was one we played last year, Huntington University in Indiana. It's a beautiful campus, a lot of fun to throw through, and people walking everywhere. But at the same time, you realize every time I stepped up to throw, I was afraid that I was just going to drill somebody in the face. And we hit a couple of buildings, and we're close to hitting a couple of people a few times.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a course in downtown Chicago, just like I think it's at IIT, and it's extraordinarily dangerous. It's literally built just you throw across walking, like the actual paths where people go to class. There's baskets right next to the door to the dorm rooms. I mean, it's crazy dangerous.
And I don't care how soft your RFF wizard is at this point; it's still going to hurt.
Super stupid soft. Well,
and I just wanted to add this. I think I've been in the medical device and all this, and there's things in surgery, let's say, where there's a maloccurrence and something bad happens, and then there's malpractice. And so some of these courses, it's malpractice. You're not going to be able to defend yourself. Well, why did the course zip around by the bike rack? Blind shot by the dorm. I mean, it's malpractice at this point. It's not an errant shot.
Malpractice.
Right. And so, I mean, I think it's something we need to think about, because if you're out there designing a course and somebody really gets hurt, a lawyer is going to seek you out.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think, so be mindful of that when you're designing a course.
You're not going to get out of that liability, or whoever is responsible for that course. I'd love to have a professional course designer on the podcast. So I know we've got somebody listening who either professionally designs courses or knows somebody who they do, or who does professionally design courses. I'd love to have you on the show to talk about this type of thing and how we can improve courses and grow the sport in that way. John, I know it's 10:50 and you said that you probably needed to head out. You're welcome to stay with us.
I would like to put in one last plug for the St. Jude effort.
Absolutely.
So it is my belief that if a person listening has a PDGA number, then they need to become involved in fundraising for the St. Jude effort. Whether you can come to our event in May in Seaside, California or not, you can go to stjude.org/disc golf and become a fundraiser. It's free to become a fundraiser. You just go on there, you enter your information, and you personalize a little website and personalize some emails if you want, and then just click send or click share. And it's that easy. And then your family and your friends are going to support this cause. And in doing that, they'll be supporting the sport you love, which is disc golf. And so I just encourage everyone to do that. Our goal is to raise $300,000. Like I said, last year, 200 people actively fundraised, and we raised over $200,000. So please involve yourself in this. You'll feel awesome about it. We're helping these kids, and I just encourage everyone to do that. And if not, buy a fundraising disc, support someone else's effort. I mean, at a minimum. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that, and really enjoyed being on the show. It's a terrific show, and I'd come back anytime you want.
John, thank you so much, and we will have you back. We will take you up on that.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
right.
John.
Making the world better. All right. Bye.
Bye. So, guys, let's talk about, well, I guess for the last 22 podcasts, we've talked about what we're throwing. However, we've kind of run out of things to throw in our bags. And I put it up to our Twitter followers with the little poll option there on the old Twitter. And I asked them what they wanted us to do with this segment. And 33% said keep the segment going. 50% said review different types of equipment, and 17% said pitch us, or said they wanted to pitch a new idea, but nobody gave me any new ideas. So maybe my wording on that was off. Where was that 17% of people said they would pitch us a new idea, but I never got one. Oh, well. So obviously they want to hear us talk about other types of equipment. And I understand both of you gentlemen have a couple types of a couple different types of equipment that you want to talk about. But I did want to bring up also that while we're talking about polls, last week I threw a survey up about how many Oreos you could eat during a Zen Disc Golf podcast. I don't know if you saw that, but a whopping 40% of our listeners say they can eat 14 packages of Oreos, and that the law of diminishing returns is a lie.
Wow.
It does not actually, I looked it up. It does not actually apply to Oreos, believe it or not.
What reference are you using for that?
There was a study done at Stanford back in 1998 by their Health and Human Services Department. And they did prove definitively. And then also my own personal observations, there is actually, in fact, no such thing as too many Oreos.
Oh, well, I stand corrected in the Oreo department. Guys, let's talk about what gear you want to review. Go ahead first, Chris.
Well, I'm not a huge connoisseur of disc golf bags. I figure one or two is enough for me. But today I've got a Chain Ringer Gears ultimate disc golf starter bag, and I figured I'd talk about that because it's different enough that I like to talk about it now and then. This is a starter bag. It holds 1 to 2 putters in the front, and then it holds somewhere around 8 discs in the middle, so a standard starter bag size. What makes this different is a few of their focus features that a lot of the other starter bags don't have. I'm sure you're like me and you've had bags where your clips just break, come off. This one has larger, stronger clips than usual, so I'm excited about that. I'll be able to use the bag for a lot longer. And it's also got a clip on a strap from the inside that you can, so you can hook up your keys, wallet, whatever you need to. The reason that's there is because they didn't focus on storage like a lot of these other bags do. And some people love storage. I personally don't. I'm a minimalist. So instead of having, instead of having so many large pockets that take up room, they've added one putter pocket on the front, and what's really cool about that is it's got an elastic strap, so I can put one putter or two putters in there. It'll stretch out for two, but sometimes on the current bag I have, if I have one putter in there, it's loose and it falls out, but the elastic keeps it tight. And it's got a small pocket on the front for one pen and one mini and a scorecard, and I think that's neat because those what I grab all the time rather than the zip pockets where I constantly fumble with the zipper. This one does not have the storage on the inside of the flap. Sometimes I find that kind of nice, but instead of the storage on the inside of the flap, there's a small zip pocket on the inside just behind the putters. The flap will fold over and it's got a magnet, and that's pretty neat because, again, I don't have to worry about the zippers. If it starts raining, I just fold it over, and I'm the kind of guy, I'm too lazy to flip my top over all the time and zip it up, and my discs get wet. So it's really nice.
Who zips their bag up? Unless you're traveling.
Right, exactly. So anyway, there's a couple of cool features on this. Oh, and the drink holder is extra large. And if you're like me, I get terribly frustrated because my large water bottles, I drink a lot of water. My large water bottles don't fit in my bags most of the time, but this is an extra large drink pocket that you can cinch down if you need to. So, I'm sure a lot of people are saying, what's the big deal about these? Well, you know what? These features have hit the features that are pain points to me. I'm sure other people have different pain points, but it's really, really nice for me. One downside is it doesn't have a structure. So I wouldn't use this as a practice bag because if you pull out 3 or more discs to throw at a time, the bag starts falling over. But on a typical round, you usually only pull out 1 to 2 discs at a time, and it does just fine. So I think right now it's only available on Amazon, but I'd recommend giving it a look. Considering it's about $22, so right in the starter price point range. So it's very, very affordable. And it looks like they're going to be coming out with some more bags and eventually some other equipment. And they've talked with a lot of their customers, and they're really focused on giving disc golfers what they want. So it's a pretty exciting new company. I'd highly recommend taking a look and seeing what they're coming out with next.
Awesome. So that's Chain Ringers, right?
Correct. Chain Ringer Gear.
Ultimate Disc Golf Starter Bag. Okay, Tim, what you got?
Hey, so, Chris had mentioned large water bottles, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. Last year, I ended up at REI, one of the best stores in the entire world. And I had a coupon or like a gift card or something, and I couldn't find anything to buy, believe it or not.
You couldn't find anything to buy at the best store in the whole entire world?
not that was covered by, it's not only the best store in the entire world, I think it might be the most expensive store in the entire world.
Did they not have Oreos?
They did not have Oreos. They did have protein bars made of crickets, though, which was pretty cool. I did try those.
That's kind of like an Oreo.
Good. Oh, yeah.
That you drop on the floor.
There is a point of diminishing returns in eating crickets, though. I will tell you that.
Boom.
So I think I had like a $30 gift card to spend or something like that. So I wanted to find something that I could just buy for that. And I came across something called the Hydro Flask. And I got to tell you that since investing in my first Hydro Flask, my collection has grown to several. I think I've got 4 now. And it's something that goes with me everywhere, not just on the disc golf course, but off the disc golf course. This is hands down the best water bottle that I've ever bought. And it might sound a little weird to get that excited about a water bottle, but it solves every problem that every other water bottle has. And before this, I used to use those Nalgene bottles. And the problem with those is about, 3.5 minutes into your round, no matter how much ice you put in those things, you've now got just like lukewarm water with you. So the first thing about this Hydro Flask is if you put ice water in here with ice and you close it up, you could still have actual ice in your ice water 20 to 24 hours later. I've actually left these things in my car overnight, come out the next day, and there's still ice cubes in the thing.
Wow.
So they stay cold forever. Same thing with hot. In the wintertime, you put something hot in there, and it stays hot for not quite as long, but 10 or 12 hours later, the stuff is not just warm, it's still hot. So the temperature regulation of this thing is just amazing. It's stainless steel, so unlike the Nalgene, if anybody who's used plastic water bottles for more than a few days has noticed that if you don't really stay on top of those things, they really start to get kind of a funky odor to them. And This thing will not start smelling, super easy to clean. And because of the way that it's sealed and insulated, it doesn't sweat either. So it's always dry on the outside. You don't have the wetness on the outside of the bottle. I just can't say enough about these things. I wrote a review about them on my site. I recommend them I probably got another 20 or 25 people at work to buy these things. Once you see them and once you use them, they're just awesome. You can get them in a million different colors, a ton of different sizes. For the beer drinkers out there, they make growlers that do the same thing for the temperature. So keep your beer cold the whole round. It's really just a fantastic product.
That's only if you're on a private course.
Yes. or well, it's not beer in there. It's soda. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, you guys, I'm gonna review one of my absolute favorite products for the course. It's the Cutter 51020 unscented insect repellent with 10% DEET. 6-ounce air salt can on Amazon, $3.13. Boom.
You're gonna need it this year. Early warm and wet spring. I've been bitten by mosquitoes already here in Michigan. You're gonna need it.
Okay, truth be told, I don't have a review for today, but that's all right. So we'll be transitioning from discs to other items and things like that, and we'll see how that segment begins to grow for us. I want to talk about some other stuff. So I know I told you guys, and I posted my sincere apologies on the web this week, but I found out by accident that all of my website forms were being emailed straight to my Gmail trash can. Oh, the horror.
Isn't that where all of our email goes?
I eventually found that I had over 500 unanswered messages from listeners, from website viewers, from everywhere. And let me tell you, my heart sunk that I wasn't seeing all of these messages. And because, Zen Disc Golf, I guess, has been around for about 16 months now, I didn't notice like a downward trend because I wasn't aware of a trend in the first place. You know what I mean? The brand and everything is so new that I just did not know. And me and my wife were actually talking the night before, and she says, "Well, what is it like to have what you have within the disc golf world and what you guys have within the disc golf world? Does it ever make?" And I say, "No, because it doesn't change anything because I see the numbers, I see all of this, but I kind of decided very early on that I would stay absolutely humble no matter what happened." And I said, and it's not like people are emailing me all day long. So I fixed the problem, and I'm still filtering through all these emails and trying to answer them. If they're older than like 8 months, I'm probably, unfortunately, I just can't get around to answering them. But if you tried to contact me via the website, my sincerest apologies. I'm still sorting through these messages. If you want to get back in touch, please try again, and I will try to get to you even quicker. On the upside of this, I found many applications for people who wanted to be on the show. So we've had like 5 shows with no guests because I just haven't been receiving these emails. But now we've got a whole backlog of guests that are going to be joining us for the rest of this month and next month. That being said, Tim, Chris, and I have talked several times about doing some Q&A podcasts, possibly as extended content that we can send to our email list subscribers. So it's something that we're kind of tossing around. But if you have any questions, please email me at zendiscgolf@gmail.com, or since the forums are up and working again, hit the website up and send them from there. Or you can go to Facebook, Twitter. I'll just be collecting these questions that you have for myself or Chris or Tim or even any of our guests. If you have a question for John today, I'm sure I could email him. He'll answer me back, and we'll go back and I'll re-record his response for you guys.
And then we'll also be having an Oreo eating contest.
Yes.
Done. I'm in.
So that being said, let's give some stuff away. If you've listened to the pod before or follow us in any social media, you know that we love to give things away. And the one thing that we've been giving away since the beginning of the podcast are copies of Zen and the Art of Disc Golf signed by the author. Now, how did we get all of these signed copies of this nifty little book is a secret that we're just not willing to tell. But this episode, I will be sending a signed copy to Marcel Louise Papp. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Marcel wrote the following 5-star review on Amazon. They purchased a verified paperback, which I've yet to have anybody purchase an unverified paperback, but they say they give the book 5 stars, and they say changed my whole game and even my mood at work. Amazing read and then reread. So, nice short review there. Thank you so much for this review, Marcel. Please email me, zendiscgolf@gmail.com, and I will get this book into your hands as soon as possible. If you would like to enter to win a signed copy of this nifty little book about the sport we all love, leave a 5-star review on Amazon to enter. Each podcast, we choose a random review to send a book out while supplies last, and let me tell you, they are dwindling. In fact, pretty soon, we may be moving to giving other things away. Maybe we might start alternating between Amazon reviews and iTunes reviews. I like that idea. Just
Could you give away a signed copy of the podcast?
Now my head hurts.
There's a podcast out there. It's pretty good. I recommend listening to it, but it's called Tell 'em Steve Dave. Have you ever heard of that one?
No.
Do you know the TV show Comic Book Men? Kevin Smith's Comic Book Men? Okay, the guys on that show, Walt Flanagan and Brian Johnson are the main two. They have a podcast with one of the, what is it, Impractical Jokers? Is that a show?
Okay. Yeah.
It's some TV show. I've never seen it. I don't have cable, but those three are on this podcast called Tell 'em Steve Dave, and it's actually a very, very popular podcast with a huge following. Well, they do these Kickstarter things all the time, and they actually one time did a Kickstarter for a vinyl pressing of an unreleased podcast. And to my knowledge, that's the only time that's ever been done. But they made, I have no idea how much, but they made thousands of dollars off this. So if you guys want to do that, we can look into it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty neat.
We could do a 8-track released podcast for our most devoted listeners. You're gonna have to go find an 8-track player that actually works. And the beauty
We're
of
gonna go on a limb and say most of our devoted listeners are too young to remember that technology.
They're like, "What's an 8-track?"
What's an 8-track?
Yeah, I mean, I'm too young to really remember that technology. Did either of y'all ever have an 8-track?
No.
My uncle had one in his truck that he drove around all the time, and I distinctly remember driving around listening to 38 Special on the 8-track.
From recordings of the All-Star podcast, the highest download counts. Honestly, I could listen to that story about you throwing your disc into that lady's window over and over again. That is my favorite. That is my all-time favorite segment of any of the podcasts.
That was Zach. My story was about being walked off the course by security.
I miss Zach. Zach, we miss you, buddy.
Yeah, man. And I'm in contact with him. He's just so busy. I don't know if he wants me to give out the details of his personal life, but things are going really, really good for Zach. It's just a lot of stress that he's going on right now.
Sure.
I did want to tell everybody to, again, head to events.stjude.org/mindbodydisc and join Tim's team in support of St. Jude, but do some good in this world while we grow this awesome sport. But also go to check out Tim's blog, mindbodydisc.com, and check out Chris's blog, DG Puttheads. Of course, head to zendiscgolf.com, drop your email in the inbox on the right side of the website, and I'll send you an email direct to your inbox whenever a new podcast drops. I'm also including Tim and Chris's latest posts in the email, along with any Zen Disc Golf related news, but most importantly, my friends, just throw.
I'm going to take this time to blow my nose. Okay, thank you.
That one definitely is going in the show.
Yes, I was just thinking that.